So, let's be honest. Jake Browning did it again. Jake Browning had another amazing game versus the Indianapolis Colts. And going into this game, he said last week after beating Jacksonville Jaguars, he said he was kind of paranoid. He was going to be a one game wonder, pretty much. He would have one good game where he's good, and then he would never be good again. And he said how many quarterbacks, backup quarterback, get an opportunity, and that's all that ever happens. So he was kind of paranoid going into this game that potentially could be a fact. Well, the reporter asked him yesterday, he said, after Monday night at Jacksonville, you talked about following it up with another good performance. You did that today. What does it feel like to go back to back? So back to back good performances. He says, it feels good. It feels like we got some rhythm going. I think as well as we played on offense, I thought the offensive line had a really good game. No sacks, a couple explosive screens, ran the ball for 100 plus yards. I think for all these post-game press conferences, you kind of go back to the same thing of it's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think. So I know there are some things that I can improve on. And so that will kind of be my focus. But it feels better doing that when you won and trying to keep getting better instead of losing and trying to get better. So we'll take it. And yeah, I mean, based on what I've heard from his press conference and his demeanor, he doesn't feel like he's going to be a one-game wonder anymore. He knows now that he's gotten in his rhythm. He's gotten going in some way that he's going to be just as good as he was on Jacksonville's game every game moving forward. And again, listen, confidence in yourself is the number one thing you need at the quarterback position. And I don't blame Jake Browning being thrust into a role that really is a lose-lose situation for everybody because this team was kind of going downhill. And to be your first NFL start, have to bring this team back up. And obviously, Pittsburgh game, we didn't really unlock him at all. And then this game, we unlocked him. Jacksonville game, we unlocked him fully. And now he has to back that up after literally a career-setting performance, a record-setting performance. I don't blame him for being, kind of nervous and scared and like, hey, listen, everyone expects me to be A. And if I'm not A, I'm going to be considered one of the worst in the world. And everyone's going to hate me. So I understand the lack of confidence in that way completely. But again, it's really how you respond to it. And that's really 90% of the quarterback position is how you respond to adversity. And speaking about the fact of responding in the perfect way possible, as he went ahead and went out there yet again and got another W for us. Another win. Back-to-back wins. Now, it does talk about right before halftime and some things that went down before halftime. Obviously, the pick six. Now, when it did happen, we thought the ball was tipped. And that's what we talked about in the live stream. And it looked like it was tipped. But based on Jake Browning, the ball wasn't tipped. What he said was, on the throw to Tanner Hudson, did you just throw too far inside of him? He said, yes, I thought he was going to sit. And then he kind of sat and broke out a little bit. I'm sure he was right. I might have just thrown it too far inside. He goes out and tries to make a one-hand catch, and it kind of goes into the guy's lap. I think if I just throw it to him in his chest, then we avoid the whole problem. So based on this, it looks like that pass was not tipped. And it really was just a bad play. Well, not bad play. It was a miscommunication on Jake Browning's part with Tanner Hudson. Which, again, I know, obviously, Jake Browning right now is going to take responsibility saying, hey, bad throw by me. That was my fault. I don't really think it's anyone's fault. I think it was just miscommunication, which happens. I mean, you have a guy who, hasn't had too many career starts, and then Tanner Hudson, who also hasn't had too many career starts at this point, going in the same game together. Now, obviously, they have processed together to a certain degree. So that's definitely, helpful in that context. But at the same time, like, again, timing is gonna get going over years. I mean, you don't usually get timing going over like 6 or 7 games, maybe like 4 or 5 games. If that's the first time you're actually playing on an NFL field with somebody. It might take you 1 or 2 years to really get the timing down perfect and the communication levels as well as they need to be, especially when you're going against a very tough opponent, right? You are looking good in that situation, so you're kind of probably nervous, a little rattled. He was rattled going into this game, so there's a whole bunch of things that, again, as he said, he needs to work on. He needs to get better. He needs to perfect. And one of those things is definitely going to be communication between him and his wide receivers. Now, obviously, T dropped a couple passes today. I think all the passes that he dropped yesterday were all really good passes to him. I don't think any of them were really big problems at all. And I got to give him credit on a lot of those passes where, Jake threw the ball right on the money. And it was just, a not really miscommunication, just bad hands on T. Higgins on that part. Now, going into the interception before halftime, though, the pick six, as I said before, most of the quarterback position is how do you deal with adversity? How do you deal with something bad happening and have to recover? And this is what he said. I threw a bad pass to Tanner Hudson. He tried to make a play. I need to throw it to his chest. Then it gets returned for a pick six. So that was tough. But I think coming into halftime, my thought process was the only thing that they haven't stopped us, the only time that they haven't stopped us is when I threw it to the other team. So just don't do that, and we'll move the ball well. I love, that might be the best quote I've ever seen by an NFL quarterback in my life. Just don't throw it to the other team, and we're fine. Somebody should have taught that to Jameis Winston when he came out of college. Because no one taught that to Jameis Winston at all. No one taught that to every bust quarterback in NFL history. Just don't throw it to the other team and we'll be fine. Yeah, that might be the most underrated post/comment I've ever seen in my life. Don't throw it to the other team and we'll be fine. Yeah, on a real note though, I think what we really learned was, as he said, yeah, they couldn't stop us. And between the run game popping off and the pass game popping off, I think what really came down to that game was the fact of how well and efficient we were able to run the football. And I think that really opened up the pass game. It opened up play action game. And what we saw in that game was Jake Browning might be one of the best quarterbacks at the play action. And it's ironic enough because I'm not even saying this to overhype him in any way, but his play action game is almost deadly perfect. There's times even when I'm watching where I'm like, okay, play action. Well, I thought that was going to be a run play. And, you could tell if you watch a defense, how they react. They actually think it's going to be a run play. And it might be the fact that, they kind of have this mindset of, okay, well, they're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to keep running the ball because they don't trust Jake Browning to beat us. But at the same time, you got to think the defense is committing to the run, but to a certain degree, that they also are not. They have to be scared of Jake Browning in a way, like his passing game, because he has been efficient in the pass game. So I gotta say, his play action game is really what I saw a lot of in the second half, and it really changed up the whole entire ball game. Now, they do ask him about playing under center / playing, in shotgun. And he says, I think the more you can do, the more looks you present the defense, the more that all those looks have multiple things that you can run out of those formations or those sets. I think it makes it difficult. I feel like we're doing a good job of that. And again, I would love to run as much as we can out of under center. It is the best formation possible for us. The problem is it depends on how good our offensive line is playing in that said game. And I gotta say, again, the offensive line played amazing in this game. They played amazing in the Jags game. It's like ever since Joe went down with injury, this offensive line just said, hey, listen, we now actually have to start playing good football because our quarterback went down. It seems like that. Now going a little bit forward here, he does talk about, just going back to the top here, about his cramps in his thumb. He did say that it's pretty much just he hasn't drank enough water, and that the team is going to get on him for not drinking enough water, and that's pretty much that. There wasn't anything really big serious about that. That's why, again, he came back right after a couple of drives. I mean, I know A.J. McCarron threw the touchdown that was called back, but other than that, he came back right away and he felt fine. And I gotta say, overall wise, man, I am so excited to see him the rest of this season. Again, will he go and get a new contract somewhere else after the season? Is potentially possible. I mean, you gotta think there's teams out there like the Bucks, right, who don't have their franchise quarterback. And maybe they want to see Jake Browning on their team, especially because Baker hasn't really panned out. You know, there's other quarterbacks too, but I'm really hoping that we able to sign him. Keep in mind, we have him, like, we have access to talk to him until free agency starts. So once the season ends, it's very possible they just give him like a 5-year contract for like $10 million. And it's just $2 million a year and fully guaranteed, and that's it. And he might be perfectly okay with that. I think that he wants to be in Cincinnati. I think he wants to stay in Cincinnati because, you know, he knows that, first off, he is always backing up the best quarterback in the league. If the best quarterback in the league goes down with injury, it's his team. And that he has the playmakers and weapons and the system that works with him. So now that he's learning this system and he's mastering this system, I don't think he's going to want to go somewhere else and go to a system that might be, you know, set him up for failure. Right? A lot of quarterbacks do that. They kind of chase the money and it ends up being a downfall for them in the end because they go somewhere that isn't going to be successful for them. So tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. But overall wise, man, Jake Browning, another W performance. Peace out.